Welcome back to the Sikhana podcast. I'm Aiko. I'm here with Steve Stosen. Steve, a little bit about you. Quick background. President of Notaries Express, which is a signing agency, and you have extensive experience in escrow and real estate and loan signing, transactions, all of that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I was looking at the LinkedIn and I couldn't really get anything else out of it.
No, that's exactly it. So my wife and I started this company going on almost 20 years. We actually came from escrow. So we worked in title and escrow before, and that's actually how we met.
Wow.
So we both met. We were cubicle neighbors.
Yeah.
And, we're both, well, she was a mobile notary and in escrow. I worked like in an operations division. So we weren't doing exactly the same thing, but, just working together in the same office, in the same industry. Basically, we were giving our business to another notary service as an escrow unit. And she would still go out and do like mobile notaries in the evening herself. But when we were giving this business out to this other company, they just kind of sucked. Like they just weren't good at communications. Their notaries would mess up and they would like try to charge us to have a notary go back out and fix a deal. And we're like, where's the service? You guys are a service. Like, it doesn't make sense. So that's why we started the company. We were like, we just set out to do it better. Yeah. And this is in 2006. So 2005, 2006. When we were working together, it was about 2004. That's about when we met. But yeah, that's how we started.
So you went to college. Did you go to college?
Nope.
So out of high school, you went straight into real estate.
I bounced around a bunch. So to go back to kind of our past, before, we had no training to become business owners or to even, it was just like a shot that we had to be able to be in the industry. I came from a parish background. I grew up in Long Beach, and I was actually addicted to drugs as a young man. So early 13, starting like probably 13, 14, 15, 16, I was addicted to some pretty heavy drugs and wasn't a good situation. My living situation wasn't good. I was not living at home. I didn't end up finishing high school. So I actually have a 9th grade education. Wow. So, interesting, from my perspective, being a father now, trying to tell my daughter, like, you got to go to school. I didn't do it myself, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody. For me, it was total divinity and God. It's totally a God thing for me to be where I'm at and for me to meet who I've met and, my wife. And I definitely married up for sure. My wife's a rock star, but we both had, a crazy background. So that's kind of where it started. But, for me, not going to high school or having any formal education, I always had a desire to learn. When I was 17, I got in trouble with the law and realized, I don't know what it was. At an early age, I realized like it's association. If I'm going to keep hanging around these idiots, I'm going to be guilty by association. I'm going to end up being what they are and who they are, and I don't want to be that. I realized at a young age I didn't want to do that, so I stopped everything. I got in trouble, but I also was like, I'm not going back to that route. So I ended up just putting on the straight and narrow. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get away from all that. And it was hard because my parents were actually on drugs as well. So I did not, like I said, I was a hard life growing up. But I knew what I had to do and get away from all of that and get away from the family members that weren't, doing well and everything. And I ended up getting a job for a timeshare company in Long Beach. And they got me a position for a job up here in the Bay Area. So not here, but in the Bay Area, Northern California. So with that, got a job up here, totally was like, I'm changing my life. I didn't want anything to do with my past. I'm getting new friends. I'm going to start meeting people who were interested in, doing better things for themselves. So my idea at the time was like, I'm going to be the CEO of this company, this timeshare company that I was working for. Because I started like at the floor selling setting appointments for timeshare, and then I kind of worked my way up into a position where they put me in marketing promotions and moved me up here or to the Bay Area. And I was basically setting up cars. I was driving cars into malls and setting up entry forms for them to fill out to win a car. And it was just lead generation for this timeshare company. But, I was trying to learn every aspect of it. And I was like, I'm going to be the CEO of this company. I'm going to move my way up. So that was my desire. So I always desired to do something better. So went through that whole thing. I ended up getting involved. I met this kid at a mall when I was putting a car in and getting it all set up for the lead generation. Met a kid at the mall who was just sharp young guy. And he's like, oh, I have a business. I have an internet business. And this is 2000, this is 1999.
Yeah.
So internet business,
crazy,
really? Then when you hear internet business is totally different than what you would hear now, right? So then it was like, oh, what's this? What's going on? So it turned out to be Amway. I don't know if you know what Amway is. Yeah. Okay, so I was involved in Amway in the very early internet days. It was a company called Quickstar. And it was selling soap and, whatever. But what I'll say is that what I gained from that was not so much money or anything. I didn't make a ton of money or much money at all. But the education that it came with was insane. Yeah. It taught me that I needed to really start reading books for myself. So I started reading books on a monthly basis. I was reading 1 to 2 books a month. I was listening to audio tapes of people who are just more successful. And that's kind of what that business breeds is a perception of finding people who are successful and following them and looking up to them to figure out what they did so you can have what they have. So that was that whole idea. And I just fell head over heels for it, man. Personal development, everything. I just went all in. One of the first tapes that I listened to was a tape. It was a cassette. And I didn't have a cassette player in my car. I had to have a little cassette player that I pop a tape in and hit play.
Yeah.
So, and I'd be in my car with it. But the first cassette that I listened to was a tape called What My Rich Dad Taught Me About Money by Robert Kiyosaki. And what he explained was the cash flow quadrant. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm not. Okay, so Robert Kiyosaki, there's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's been around for a long time.
I've heard of that.
Very popular. Yeah, so that was his book that got very popular. Yeah. But the tape I heard was a precursor to that book. And it was just What My Rich Dad Taught Me About Money. And his whole life, his thing was that he had a rich dad who wasn't his dad, and a poor dad who was his real dad. And his rich dad is the one who taught him about money and everything when he grew up in Hawaii. And he explained this whole thing, and he said there's a cash flow quadrant, and you end up as an employee or a business owner, investor, or my gosh, it's been so long, ESBI, employee, self-employed investor, or business owner.
Okay.
And so that whole thing, just blew my mind because I didn't realize where I was or where I wanted to be. In that moment before then, I thought I was going to be a great employee. I was going to go out and work for a company and become a CEO and change my stars basically that way because of how I had grown up. So that was my idea. But when I heard that tape, I realized I don't want to be a, employee. I wanted to be a business owner. How do I do that? So my idea was through this Amway company. And overall, it just taught me personal development. Mm-hmm. I started, like I said, listening to, audio tapes, going to seminars. Just eating up as much as I could. So it really did change me for the better. I didn't get a formal education, but I ended up getting an education in personal development, primarily just through myself. So that's kind of how I started. And then when we were working for the title company, I was still kind of doing Amway, but it just never was not something that I realized it was multi-level is a very hard thing to be successful in. Mm. It's possible for some people, but it's really hard. And you lose a lot of friends doing it. And where I grew up, I didn't have any more friends. And sometimes those businesses, you have to be really well connected and well liked for people to join in with you. So I just realized it's not something that I was totally into or going to do, but I wanted to do something, and started working for this. Got a job at this title company. Met my wife, and at that time, she was also like, her story is crazy too, because she's not really educated. She actually finished high school and went to a community college, but she was also a young mother. So she actually had her first kid before we had kids. Our oldest daughter together is now 27, and she had her kid when she was 15. So she was a young mother in high school. And, just what are the odds of somebody who, has a life like that? You have a teen mom and you have a former drug addict, who ends up, building a company together for 20 years. And I would say, fairly successful company, with a successful lifestyle. And I think we have good kids. I mean, my daughter,
Caitlin,
and we're excited and happy for how our lives turned out.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a lot to unpack. I mean,
Sorry,
I'm going to go off the questions. No, that's amazing. I mean, first thing I just want to talk about is I've asked the people who are on here traits for a successful entrepreneur. And honestly, I mean, you've been through everything, right? You kept coming back to learning and your hunger to learn. If you could give 3 traits for someone who just wants to be good in industry or wants to pursue something, what are those 3 traits that you'd recommend them to have?
I think just a desire to learn.
Okay.
That's like the biggest one, is like you have to want to learn anything. I mean, you have to want to have a desire to want to learn more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be satisfied with just knowing a couple things or trying to, I don't know. I have friends who were like, tried to learn a little about a lot or whatever, but I say just be focused in something, whatever you're in, be in. Try to treat it more like a rifle approach instead of a shotgun.
Okay.
Because sometimes you shoot a shotgun, it's very spread
Everywhere,
out,
yeah.
and it doesn't really make a big impact. The further it goes, obviously, but with a rifle, it's very targeted.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say have a desire to learn, be targeted about it, and don't give up.
Second trait.
Second trait. I mean, honestly, not giving up, I mean, is the other part of it.
Is hard work play into that?
Well, of course, hard work
Drive.
plays into it. Yeah,
Okay.
drive. But, I mean, you got to want it.
Yeah.
If you don't want something bad enough, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like when you do, decide to take on something and you want to learn something, you're going to have the drive. It's going to follow.
Mm-hmm. Where did you get your drive from? Was that you growing up with your family in your life and you're like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to raise a family like that. Where did you get that hunger to succeed?
I would say if I had to look back at it, it had a lot to do with how I grew up and what I didn't want for my family. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I had an example of what I wanted. It was an example of what I didn't want. Yeah. I didn't grow up with a father. So I grew up when I was younger before the drug, issue when I was younger in high school. My mom left my father when I was a year old. So I didn't grow up with a father. He died in Chicago. I had no knowledge of him. Wow. I knew nothing of him. So like, I just knew that I didn't want that. I wanted kids, and I wanted my kid to be involved in my kid's life. I wanted a good life for them. I wanted them to not have to go through with what I went through.
Yeah.
So I think that, that's for sure my desire.
Wow.
Or my drive.
Yeah. Bringing it back to the company, your company.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, what is being a notary? What does that mean?
So basically a notary is somebody who identifies. So like if you need to get a document notarized, usually it's a financial document or something like that, or legal document, and they want to not just have a signature on it. They need to basically verify who
it's legit.
It's legit. It's a verified document of who signed it, right? And it was acknowledged before a notary public. Notary publics have been around for like 2,000 years. It's actually they're not all the same in every country or even in every state. Louisiana is the only state they're a little bit different, but for the most part, U.S. is a notarial public country. And then you get in some countries where they're more of like attorneys, right? So that's a little bit of a difference. But for what we do is we identify somebody that they are who they are. So we verify their ID. They confirm that this is the right person. We're actually sworn officials. We swear an oath to the state of California, and that we will uphold the law and all that. So we got to do that. But it's basically verifying the identity of somebody so they can sign a document. We verified it.
Yeah. You talked about Louisiana. I saw a statistic online, and this is it says 19 states have additional requirements or limitations. I went on your website, and it said you guys have over 17,000 qualified notaries nationwide.
Yeah, that's old too. So I need to update that.
Okay.
We have probably 30,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So is that true that 19 states have additional requirements? How do you guys get through that if that is true?
I mean, it's true. Every state's a little bit different on how the mortgage transaction's done, and they have different requirements for notaries and even becoming a notary. So we don't teach notaries or train them. We just utilize them and work with them. So we just have to make sure that they're following the guidelines and laws of each of those states. So we don't have to maintain too much of what happens in each state. But
your wife also works same company, correct?
Yep.
And she does accounting. I asked Caitlin.
Yeah,
accounting. So you are president. Your job requires leadership, correct?
Yeah.
How important?
But I'm married.
How important is that idea of being a leader, but also and I forgot what the word was. It's delegating, delegating issues. I mean, me personally, I'll overbook, and I don't really delegate things. Run a club, into school, and I try to do everything. I don't really delegate it as much. How important is that delegation, that leadership, that idea of becoming a leader?
Well, you have to delegate.
Yeah.
You have to, because you can't do it all on your own. And then, you the more you realize, going in business, you're empowered by delegating to other people. So, as long as you can maintain and that they're doing a good job and you keep tabs on that, you should be happy to delegate and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, But no, it's super important. And I would say do what you do that you do good, maintain that, whatever you're good at. What you're not so good at, delegate.
That's smart. If you could go back and just, let's say you completed high school, you could go back just in general. Is there anything that you would have started back then that would have benefited you now, or anything that you would have been a part of that could have benefited you? Is there anything that you would have done if you were to go back in time?
Well, I mean, financially, there's always something I would have went back and bought $1 million Bitcoin, when it first came up. And, of course there's that. But as far as changing anything, I don't know, man. I had a rough life growing up, but I don't know that I would have gone, would go back and change anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know what I mean? I feel like the fact that, I went through what I did has brought me to where I am. So.
Importance of adapting. Where do you see the company going in 5 to 10 years? Are you looking at that, or are you looking to adapt within that? How does that look?
Well, our industry is changing. So what's happening now with notarizations is going into remote online notary, which are electronic notarizations. So it's more of a software play for what we do. There's a couple companies that have already done it, and they're pretty successful with it. So, where do we fit into that? Am I going to pivot? Right now, not so much. I don't know if I'm ready to pivot. We're still figuring that out, but I definitely see where it's going.
Yeah.
And we have a part in it, so we do remote online, raw notaries. But we're not doing the software thing. But I do see that down the road, that's probably where it's going to really be. It's probably going to be primarily software built and integrated with the title companies, and it'll probably push out the services like what we have. Yeah.
Were there any challenges early? Early when you started? You started the company, correct?
Yeah, my wife and I started.
Okay. Yeah. Any challenges that you faced back then in terms of more broader, I guess, challenges that you think others would face if they were in start a company? For example, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would say the challenges are just different. Back then it was a little bit more unknown. one knew what the heck we did. Like we'd have to explain it, pretty hard, like try to help them understand what we did, because it was just unheard of. Most of the time before, when we started our company, you would go into the title company and sign your loan docs.
Yeah.
They normally wouldn't just send a notary out. So we started doing it right around the time that there was a refi boom in 2005, 6, 7, before the crash. And then that's when they started sending all the notaries out to the to the homes to go do the closings. So the idea of our business got a little bit more popular, but it wasn't as hard to break in. Back then it wasn't like we had to, know a ton of people to be able to start our company. I mean, we happen to know a lot of people because we were in the industry already. So it was a little bit easier for us, but I would say the challenges were just, ebb and flows with the business, trying to figure out how to make it bigger, how to grow it, how to onboard qualified notaries and make sure to weed out the crappy ones that messed up all the time or didn't really care.
Keep tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a two-part question. One, you talked about keeping track. Organization, how important is that? And the second one is, did real estate you talked about this, or you mentioned it at least, does real estate, the trends in real estate have a direct or indirect effect on your company in terms of revenue?
Oh, for sure.
So you said you started the company around 2006.
Yeah.
The crash happened right after that.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, I mean, we were just starting, so we were okay. It didn't really affect us insanely hard right away, and a different part of the business emerged. So right after the crash was REO. It was real estate owned transactions. So that was all bank owned homes. So we ended up getting a different aspect of the business. So like instead of doing traditional deals, now we were doing deals for the bank because they all owned all these homes again because they went from the owners to the banks. So then we said we had generated business through that way. So we were still so new when that crash happened that it didn't really affect us. It's not like we went from, here to,
dip. Yeah.
We didn't have a big dip. But we did have a big dip after COVID.
Okay. So
COVID was probably the hardest time that we've had to deal with for, in our company, because we were closed. We had probably a good 50-60% dip in business after COVID. And what happened is that during COVID, the rates, they dropped the rates down to 2.5-3%. So everybody was trying to do a transaction or trying to refi and buy homes. The market was going crazy, but then at the same time, you couldn't we had to sign people in their on their hoods, or we had notaries that would take card tables and chairs with their masks and sign in the driveways for people homes, or passing documents through windows, because everyone was afraid of COVID. So it was really hard in that aspect. And then the volume was insane for that period of time when the rates were low. And then right after COVID, when the rates shot up from 2.5-3% to 7-8%, we were pretty much dude, what happened? Everything is gone. It's dead.
Yep.
So we dropped, a significant amount of business. That was probably our most challenging time in our business. It wasn't so much the beginning, but it was just this last couple of years, actually.
Yeah. So you talked about how you had connections because you were already in the, I don't want to say industry, but you were surrounded by people who were in the industry. How important are connections in networking?
Oh, dude. I mean, sometimes you can't do it without it, and that was huge for us. I mean, we were able to secure a lot of business because of the people we knew.
Yeah.
But in general, anything that we want to do, it's always best to have a connection or know somebody.
Yeah.
And if you don't know somebody, find a way to get to know them, figure out what you can do to break in, to be able to, make that connection. Or make a good connection and make sure it's not always about what you can get from them. It's about giving them some sort of, giving them something and not really with an expectation. But if you have that connection, that's going to take you further.
Build.
Yeah.
My problem is, and when it comes to that is I don't know as much how to follow up and how it feels for me, and I don't know if this feels other people feel the same way, is this idea of I'm always asking and I'm never getting stuff back. It's never like I don't know how to identify a business relationship versus a personal relationship. I mean, I've talked to other people and they've said that their whole idea is personal relationship first, and if they know about what you're doing or whatever, that will, I guess, translate into business sometimes. For me, it comes down to reaching out and following up. And you know, I had an opportunity to work under High School of Business. It's Berkeley, and I want to go into business, right? Amazing opportunity. And this person was going through a lot. You know, she was going through a few things, and I kept reaching out because I had learned from someone else, always reach out, keep reaching out, keep following up, follow up. And I keep following up, and then I get hit with this crazy text. I mean, she was like, I need you to like relax. Yeah. This is the first time I've ever had anyone who's an adult talk to me in a real ass way. Like, you got to get your shit together. Like, I don't know what you're doing. So I'm going through a lot right now. And that was my problem. It was, I followed up too much, but then I don't know, okay, do I give it a week? Do I give it a month? How do you identify following up? How do you identify just maintaining those connections?
Those are hard, man. That's a hard situation when you know, I think what it comes down to is that you have to make friends. Yeah. Like, and it's not like if people feel like you're trying to get something from them, they're not interested in that. People want to know that you care. You know, they don't really care about you, but they want to know that you care. Yeah. You know, so like if you're there just like, hey, what can I do for you? If you're trying to do something for them, or if you have anyone that you're interested in something that, you know, that some part of the aspect of business or whatever, I would say the best thing to do is just to try to offer anything that you can do for them. Yeah. And just try to do it without expecting anything back. And if it turns out to be nothing, then, you know, and you don't get it, it is what it is. You made a friend. Yeah. Right. So that's, if you have that mentality going in, like, it's never a loss. Right. Yeah. You maybe didn't get what you intended to get, but overall, you made a new friend, and that, like, sometimes may not it may not grow right away, but down the road, you know, something will come from it. Because you've made friends and those connections through the ways. Yeah. And, you know, down the road, they're going to be like, dude, I totally remember he came through. He was totally helping me out. I couldn't really help him at the time, but like he, you know, totally came through for me, and I appreciate it. But now I'm in this position, so I'm going to help him out. Right. Yeah. So it's definitely more meaningful that way.
If you were, okay, would you, right? It's been a little over 2 decades that you've had your own business. Yeah. Would you ever consider going out into another field or starting something else?
Yeah. You know, I may have to, so we'll see. What's stopping me is time, man. Yeah. You know, I mean, I would say that's one thing that I could probably do better right now is you know, systemize and stream my business a little bit more, so I'm not so heavily involved. But, you know, it's our baby. We love our company, and you know, we spend a lot of time with it and making sure like our clients are happy. You know, for me, like our customer retention is really number one. I mean, some of the clients we've had since we started. My first client that I got, you know, when I went out and started marketing for ourselves as a signing service, because we were both doing mobile notaries as we started our company. But my first national account, that escrow officer, I still work with today, and she's been with us for 19 years. Wow. You know, I just got off the phone with her today, you know, and it's just cool to have that relationship. And now we have a different relationship. We actually have, you know, we talk about travel. We've hung out together outside of work. Like, she's a friend. Yeah. You know, it's not so much business as it is a friend. So, to bring it back, starting into another industry. Sorry, man, I got pulled away there. But I think that all I was trying to say is that I'm pretty dedicated to our company and to our customers, and that's what's the biggest focus for me. So me trying to pull away and start another company, I don't know that I could. I'm not that guy. Not right now. You know, I have friends who have like 2 or 3 or 4 businesses, and they're able to pull it off, you know, but to me, I'm like, I still have that, you know, kind of effort, rifle approach.
Yeah. Let's say you were starting another company and it was modern. It was right now, right? Let's say in a week from now. Mm-hmm. What lessons would you carry over from the beginning and from the almost more than 2 decades of your past experience, what would you carry over now? What would you do differently?
I would definitely, if I had to just say, let's say I had to start a new company, let's say this one kind of went out and I had to start a new company, I would take action a lot faster.
Okay.
I would not be afraid to make mistakes, and I would work through them. And I would actually be happy to make mistakes. The more mistakes I make, the closer I am to the solution, right? So that's something that I would do, and I would attack it all at once.
Did family have anything to do with your evaluation of risk versus reward and attacking opportunities? Did having a family and right, you met your wife and you had Caitlin around 2006, right? When you started your company.
Yeah.
Did having that idea of this is my thing, and if this messes up, right, I have a kid I have to take care of. Did that change anything within your attacking opportunities?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was definitely we weren't as big risk takers, because we had, I had a family. I couldn't just go all in on, and just blow it, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. It was definitely a little bit more calculated, because we did start our company right when we had Caitlin.
Did you have any struggles financially when you started the company? What was your financial situation looking like from a broad basis? I know.
Yeah, it wasn't great. We were okay.
Yeah.
It just wasn't great, but we were definitely starting. We bootstrapped our company for sure.
Okay.
But we started slowly. We didn't try to go all in. We didn't get business loans, SBA loans, or anything like that at all. We funded it ourselves slowly but surely. I mean, we worked from, we had an extra bedroom in the house. That's where our first office was. My desk was in my closet. Because that's where we had room, and we both, Svetlana and I, my wife, were in the same office. She had a desk behind me, and mine was in the closet. We just took the door off. And I was there, and she was over there, and we were just plugging away. But that was our first office before we even hired anybody. So when we got enough business to generate enough to be able to, okay, we should get an office and hire somebody, then that's kind of what we did. We just did it little by little. And always, try to keep it cheap. I mean, I would definitely say it was the Amazon style. I wouldn't say that I was using my doors as, desks, but, pretty much we didn't go and try and get the super really nice office to impress anybody. Yeah. Our office was above a bar in Walnut Creek. And it was not the greatest of locations. It was a very old office building. I would say it's class D. If there's class A, would be the offices on Douglas. Oh, yeah. Those are class really A. Nice. Ours was class D. It was very old, above a bar, to say the least. So 5:30, the music would start to come on. It would be a little bit annoying to try and work if we had to work late. But that was the thing. We didn't really try to fund our business all crazily and have this crazy look and spend a bunch of money to make it look like we were doing better than we were. Yeah. We really made sure that, we built it up smartly.
Holistic approach. Yeah. I mean, did you and your wife worked on this whole thing together? Did that have the business side, have any effect on personal relationships? Whether that be you guys always talked about business, you got into a business argument. I mean, how was that?
All the time, still to this day. It's not easy, man. I mean, I would say being married is hard, but being married and in business together and working together 24/7, and it's really hard. Yeah. It's not easy, but I would say it's worked out for us in a way that we've been able to manage our time in a way that we've been able to be there for our kids in every step of the way we could. We didn't really have babysitters. My wife's mom is one who babysat the kids when they were younger. And it was just family helped, and then, but for the most part, because we owned a business together, we were able to have a good understanding of what needed to get done. And, it wasn't oh, you're always working in that company and are you ever going to have time for me? She knew exactly, we knew exactly where we stood with the company as far as what was needed and what was required. So it was always a good reliance that way.
Okay. I have a few. This is something new that we're going to do.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a segment. I don't know what to call it. I have a few misconceptions about running a signing agency.
Okay.
Debunk them. I don't know if they're true. You tell me.
All right.
First one is notaries just stamp documents.
Not true.
Why?
Some notaries just stamp documents, but first of all, they have to identify. They're not just stamping. They have to identify the person that they're notarizing, and it could be a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You could, they have to be able to detect that the person that they're notarizing is actually true. There's tons of fraud out there. And if you actually research it, you'll see that notary real estate fraud is really bad. Mm-hmm. So there's aspects that are not just stamping documents, and the notaries that we use are actually signing agents. They're not, they're actually trained to handle real estate transaction documents. So they have to know how the documents are supposed to be signed, where they're supposed to be signed, what's missing, what's not missing, and how to basically communicate the documents to the borrower or the signer without going overboard, because they're not legal. They're not able to give legal advice. They're not, they're not loan officers. They're not agents. They're just there as a neutral third party signing person, but they have to know the industry and the documents enough to be able to relate the documents in a way that they can sign them and get them back to the lender so that they're completed properly without error.
I love the field of real estate, right? I wanted to go into it. I'm not that familiar with notaries. Mm-hmm. If you identify a fraud, what steps do you take from there?
We just have to report it back to the title company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
then nothing else. We don't really notify, from us, we notify our client.
Okay.
That would be it.
And they take action from there.
That's their responsibility to take action. Yeah.
Second one.
Unless it's something that walks through our door individually. Right. So we have our clients, but if we have a direct walk-in and somebody's trying to get something notarized that is fraudulent and we're able to notify them, we would contact the police.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if it's someone else's,
if it's part of their transaction, that's their responsibility. Yeah. We'll put it back to them.
Okay.
Yep.
Second one. It's a part-time job.
It, for some people it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does your typical day look like?
I work half days.
Okay.
12 hours a day.
Wow.
I'm typically up at and I'm different than my notaries. The notaries sometimes are out there as part-time. They're working regular day jobs, and in the evenings they're doing mobile notaries or on the weekends. So that could be true for a notary. But for me, it's definitely.
Oh, you were serious. You're actually 12 hours a day.
I wake up at, 5:30, 6 a.m. and I'm pretty much on the phone or checking my emails, and then probably till 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. And depends.
I thought you were joking.
No, dude. I've been doing that for 12 years. And I'm always available to my notary. So if a notary calls me and it's we took a vacation in Hawaii, and I was working on vacation because it is what it is. Yeah. I talk to my clients and my notaries wherever I'm at.
How much sleep do you get?
6 hours, 5.5 to 6 hours.
Do you value that? I know we had Melissa come on last week, and her company is helping you with sleep. And she's like, ever since I was starting my company, I always value sleep. How much do you value sleep?
I value sleep, but at the same time, if I have to lose some sleep, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, occasionally.
It sucks. The next day, you're I have to be pretty sharp for my business, but at the same time, sometimes you got to burn at both ends. Yeah.
Next one. And you mentioned this earlier when I talked about 5 to 10 years. Technology will replace notaries. How true is that? Is that
I wouldn't say technology will replace it. Technology is embracing it, but it's changing it.
Okay.
So it's just going to change, and it's already started to change. Mm-hmm. So in this January of this year, California was probably one of the very last states to pass the remote online notary law.
Saw that.
Yeah. So it's so weird that, we lead the country in technology from Silicon Valley, but we are the last to adopt it, but that partly is because we have the biggest economy. California has the biggest economy out of the entire country. So we just do the majority of the transactions across the board. So it's a bigger ship to steer. So instead of, making a big turn, they're turning it very slowly. So that's where we're at. So they finally adopted that. And that doesn't even mean that now I can be a Ron notary. I have to wait for the Secretary of State. They were given until 2030 to be able to create the program to have remote online notary classes in California. So we're allowed to do remote online notaries, but we're having to use notaries from other states to do Ron electronic notaries.
I had an internship under a real estate agent, and I sat in one of the meetings, and they had it was like a new form that came out, new rules or something. I don't know if this pertains to you at all. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
It was like a form, and it was more of like changes for agents in terms of the buying process, in terms of being like, I guess, more transparent with buyers and their tenants and all that. I don't know. Does that have anything to do with this?
I think that might have to do with the buyer's 2.5% fee.
Yes, it does.
Right. So that was the big change that happened. There was
Yes.
a lawsuit where a seller was basically like, "Why am I paying the buyer's fee?"
Yep.
Right, and that was huge. That was the biggest ripple in the real estate transaction in probably the last like 40 years. It's just insane what happened. And so now that's been a bit. That's not my side of it.
Okay.
So I don't really go too deep on that. Like I understand it enough, but it's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably where
Yeah. Next one. Let me see. Where are we at? I think this is the second to last one. Signing agencies don't need marketing.
No, you have to market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get your business out there. That's what
you
I
have
was
to.
looking at that. I'm like,
any
what?
business needs marketing. I mean, yeah, any business needs to have marketing. Ours is just different because we're not B2C.
Okay.
We're B2B, and it's like B to a very specific B. It's like our clients are escrow officers, not even just lenders. I mean, we have some lenders that we work with directly, but mostly it's the escrow officers because they're the one that dictate where what service or what notary gets the job. So we have to be able to market to them.
When you started out and you didn't have, or you had connections, did you leverage those connections when you started out?
Oh yeah,
to market,
sure.
And that was, and then so then from there it just spread like wildfire.
It spread. We actually didn't do a whole lot of like traditional marketing at all. Like, we never really did social media. We never did like any commercials or anything like that. I would be a canvasser, so I would go out. I would take our swag, and I have like blue pens, signing pens, and nail files, rulers, like stuff that would sit on an escrow officer's desk. And I would go out there and I'd drop it off and give them my cards and say, "Hey, we'd love to work with you."
Cards, man.
And I was just out there, plugging away. And I literally have probably passed out like 100,000 pens. I'm not even kidding, dude. I have given out so many blue pens because blue is a signing ink color for real estate.
It's
generally.
a psychology thing?
No, it's just because when you make a copy, if you're using black, you can't tell the difference between original and a copy.
Yep.
So you have a blue ink that differentiates that now this is an original. So we would give out pens, and that's how I would market. I'd go out, see clients. And then the other part of our marketing was referral. Like, I didn't ask for referrals, but like it was word of mouth from other escrow officers in the office, or they would move to another office. So a lot of our business was generated just by people going into their offices, and the escrow officers like, "Dude, use this signing service. They're great." I have one client that I marketed to in Las Vegas. We went out there, my wife and I went out there just to go hang out in Vegas. And I'm like, I'm going to go make some clients.
Yeah.
So we went to one office, the first office. I met this guy, John Ingram, and he was super cool. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll give you guys some business." And so he, threw us some business and started working together. Since then, I've just from that one customer and word of mouth, I probably have over 50 or 60 different escrow officers in Las Vegas that use us. So it's just crazy, just from one person.
Act of kindness, yeah.
And it's not even act of kindness. It's we set out to go above and beyond for our customers. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I will waive a fee. I'll do whatever I have to do. I want my customer to be absolutely happy and feel taken care of.
Yeah.
So my escrow officers know they can call me anytime they want. And, and now when I go to Vegas, I go see my friend John. I'm like, "John, what's up?" And we go out and have dinner. We hang out, and he's just a great guy.
Yeah.
But he's more of a friend now, and that's kind of the way we see it. Yeah.
So interest rates, and last time I was investing in real estate and looking at all that was like a few months ago, but they're coming down.
Yeah, ish.
A little bit.
They're down and up.
So I guess their trend, that also influences you guys indirectly, correct? Because of
No, it's
people
direct.
don't buy as
Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
for us, I mean, the interest rates directly influence how our month's going to be. So if the rates were to drop, and that's what happened in COVID, the rates dropped like crazy. We were insane.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't hire enough people. We could, you know, and it was hard to hire people too because of COVID. It was just crazy. And then once the rates went back up, we were dead. So right now it's kind of like you know, they're still high, but they're starting to come down with the new presidency. We're probably going to see them start to come down a lot, thankfully. And and so it should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it definitely influences our industry.
Okay, last one. It is. Let's see if this is going. Oh, anyone can be a good notary.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could be a good notary, I guess.
Let me follow up with that.
Yeah.
It's very vague.
It is.
How hard is the training to become a notary? What does that look like? That background of becoming, right? Let's say a real estate agent, you have that one test. I've heard it's really easy. I mean, that's what I've heard. Notary wise, background of that. How does that work?
The notary test is look, the pamphlet's like 20 pages, bro. It's not like the real estate exam.
Yeah.
The real estate exam is really thick. I've heard maybe it's gotten easier. I don't know. I don't think it's that easy, but the notary test is definitely easier.
Yeah.
The problem is they just have to make it super confusing because it's like literally the smallest handbook.
Wow.
Because there's laws, but it's not like that complicated. You have to learn how to identify somebody, what kind of ID you can use, verifying that it's fraudulent or not, and the type of certificates that you can use for each type of transaction that you're doing.
What type of person would you recommend to become an entrepreneur? And I ask that for the reason everyone I ask this question to says something different. And the question is, you are either born to be to become an entrepreneur, or you can develop traits to become one. Last week, I was told that she believes that you have to be born an entrepreneur. You have to be born with those traits. Week before, I heard if you're around the right people and you surround yourself with the right people, it'll come. What do you think?
I'm definitely with the latter there. I think like you don't have to be born into it. Sometimes you may not. I think it just comes from a self-belief. Like you have to believe that you can do it.
Yeah.
And for some people, like they're not good entrepreneurs, but they're good serial starters. Like they're kind of inventors or people who are good at starting things. Yeah. And maybe it's just a more of knowing what you're good at, you know, and some people don't, and they try to, you see it on Shark Tank all the time. These people like come in and they think they're an entrepreneur, but they're really not good at running a business or anything like that. They're good at developing a product, and maybe what they should be doing is not running that company, but just developing products and selling them off or selling the idea or whatever. But I think, it's definitely a trait issue, so I don't know if you've heard of like DISC or anything like that. So DISC is like it's another form of personality traits. Okay. So you have, you're outgoing or reserved, cautious, or you're demanding, So the DISC platform is really good. It's one that I learned in Amway, but it really helps you identify like the type of personality you are.
Did you learn that for books?
Yeah, all from books and seminars and all that, dude. That's
how important are books?
They're everything, man. Everything. Yeah, you have to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, readers are leaders.
Readers are leaders. How do you find these books? I mean, what I'll do is I'll find people that I talk to and be like, hey, what do you read? And I have a whole list in my phone. Just haven't got to it yet.
So I use Audible for me. Okay. So I find them that way. And now because of Audible, like it knows the books that I like to listen to, and I don't read as much, unfortunately, but I do listen to a lot. And I tend to listen to them a lot more than I probably would have read them. Like there's books that I listen to probably like 3-4 times. Wow. Because I get something different out of them every time. And a lot of the audiobooks will actually give you more than what's in the general book itself. Yeah. And then there's some books where I'm like, I just love reading those books because it's a different, it's different. But the audiobooks are the ones that I've read when I was younger,
Yeah.
you know, first starting, and then audiobooks that I just continue to dig in, biographies or autobiographies,
Yeah.
people who have succeeded, like, you know, the story of Elon Musk. That's a great book. Like I have my whole Audible like list of everything, and it's all personal development.
Yeah.
Like seriously, yeah, and you know, audio or autobiographies.
Were you always a book guy in high school or
No,
high school,
dude,
middle school and all that? Or
Guy.
when was like that
No.
that snap of I need to start like
After listening to that tape.
Wow.
After listening to that tape of what my rich dad taught me about money is when I was like, I realized, because I knew like I screwed up by like not finishing school and going through drugs and doing that whole thing. Like I knew I screwed that up. So once I kind of got the bug that I'm like, oh my God, this is my ticket. You know I'm going to do something great, and I know what I'm going to be. I'm not going to be an employee. I'm going to be a business owner. And, you know, I didn't know how I was going to do it yet, but I knew I had to learn, and I had to, you know, invest in myself, which was reading, listening to audiobooks, and trying to get mentors from people who were more successful than me, and start to hang around people who were just more successful in general. I mean, you are really the 5 people you hang around with.
I was gonna ask
Period.
you that.
Yeah, you are. I mean, that is like the biggest truth. The moment I stopped hanging around drug dealers, guess what? I wasn't on drugs anymore. I wasn't hanging out with those guys anymore. So I wasn't even associated. I didn't want to be a part of that anyway. But you know, when you're some people just get stuck in that, and they don't see the value of getting out of it and trying to reach out, or maybe they don't know how to reach out and get into those other circles.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, I was about to say I've been through something similar, not anything to the extremes that you have, but that idea of surrounding yourself with those people, and you really are who they like, right?
Yeah.
That's such a real thing. Mentorship, you touched on it.
Yeah.
How important is finding a mentor? I mean, I've heard it so many places. That is such a good way to get yourself into an industry or to even learn. Did you have a mentor?
I've had a lot of different mentors. I didn't have like any one specific one.
Yeah.
You know, I have some good friends who are well more successful than I am, that I have like taken on in a part of my life that I've hugged on to them and still be able to go back to if I have, you know, questions or needs or anything. And we have that relationship. But yeah, I would say it's huge. You know, like if you have somebody who's willing to pour into you and take that on and mold you, you know, or let yourself be molded. If they see something in you that they're like, hey, look, I see your potential, you don't see it yet. Yeah. That's kind of what a mentor is somebody who sees the potential in you that you're not quite there yet. You're still like, oh, I'm just this and that. And you're feeling a little bit humble, but they're like, man, I see you're here and you can do it. You know, that's the kind of person you want to grasp.
Have you ever had anyone who's said that to you?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anyone that you remember, like the first time you ever heard that? Is there anything that you remember that's significant? If someone's saying something like that to you, did that do anything that mean anything? Or
and that's what it was. It was just the fact that like he's seen more in me than I seen in myself. Yeah. You know, and to hear that was like, oh, really? Like that's kind of cool. Like I always like had a hard time having a lot of confidence, having self-confidence. Yeah. So, you know, but the talent for certain things was there, but he was able to see that and say, dude, you're here, you're not there. Yeah. So for sure it was that.
You were so cool. I mean, let me ask you something. Internal motivation versus external motivation. Here's my philosophy. I've talked to multiple people about this. I'm going on a little rant real quick.
That's all right, bro.
I talk to people about wife's working, and, you know, traditional man of the house, all that, versus both people working. I grew up in a family where my mom also works, right? Right. And I know people who grew up in a family where their dad makes all the money. I talked to my friend Bodie, and I asked him, right? He grew up with the dad make all the money, mom stay home, clean, whatever. Yeah, Bodie Wagner.
No, I was thinking of Bodin.
Bodin, tennis player.
Yeah.
No, not Bodin.
Same one. Okay,
sorry. And I grew up with a different view of that, right? Both parents work, and so my motivation, this question surrounds motivation. My motivation is external. I want a partner. I want someone who's going to push me, and I want to work harder, and I want to be like, I have external motivation. I need something to get me to do it. I asked him, I said, what motivates you then? If you're the only one working, you're the last brick. I mean, if your domino falls, you're done, all right? No one else is making money there. And he said that it comes from an internal place of pride, right? You're the provider, you're this, you're that. And I still disagree with him on that. It's just the way it works, the way he works, and obviously we can find peace in that, but what type of what motivates you? Is that internal, is it external, is it a mix of both? I mean, what is that?
I think it's a mix of both. Look, my wife would probably rather not work, but we've started this company together, and we've kind of been with it. So that's a touchy topic at home. But for the most part, man, I do believe that like if your wife wants to work, great.
Yeah.
Let her work. I mean, whatever she wants to do, let her do. I mean, there should be no reason for you to say otherwise. But if you have a wife that doesn't want to work, you shouldn't make her work. And if you want to have a wife that you treat as a princess and you're like, look, you don't have to do anything. I'll take care of everything. That's fine too.
Yeah.
I would say it's a mix of both, and everyone's a little bit different, but that's what makes us great. Yeah. You know, having an internal, that internal or external, identifying that is actually pretty awesome. If you've been able to identify that and kind of know that, that's half the battle, dude. Like a lot of people don't.
So you're more of an internal. That's what I'm getting. Internal, yeah. You're more of a push yourself type of thing. Last question.
Okay.
When will you be happy? When will you retire the company? When will you take a step back? And before you answer this, I'm going to give you a few ideas. I'll let you think. I hear people who talk about, I want to leave a legacy on this earth, a legacy everyone knew who I was when I pass away, done. That's the only time they'll be happy. I've heard people who say, when my kids make it, or when my kids go to college, or when my kids do that one thing, that's when I'll be happy. I've heard people who say, hey, I'm never going to stop. Or when my company gets successful, or when I'm a certain age, when will you be happy?
I'm happy.
When will you be
But
done?
That's what I don't know that it'll ever be done.
Okay.
And I think that's we've heard that a lot, like when is enough? You guys have, done so much, and you've done this and you have this. And I'm like, it's not about that. We're doing, and it's about, just living a balanced, successful life that, we're happy with. And it doesn't have to be this or that. I'm happy that I'm not worried about, finances so much to where, I'm scared, so like, I'm happy about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm happy now. I'm happy that, my daughter will be the first in my family to go to college, so like, that's to me is, I'm happy. I'm so happy about it. I'm like, the fact that she wants to go to USC and she's already been accepted to Baylor, like she's doing great. Yeah. And she's done it all herself. I didn't even have to help her. That must've came from my wife for sure. But dude, honestly, man, we're happy. There's always more to get and do. But we're still young, and it's, if we're not happy with what we have, then it's not any fun. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Any last, anything else for people watching? I mean, anything.
I mean, awesome, man. I'm just happy to be here, dude. Yeah. I think what you're doing is awesome, bro. I think this is awesome.
Thank you.
I'm happy you're doing it, and you seem like it seems like it's a good fit for you.
Love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, bro.